One boy stands up in front of the entire class and boldly tells the truth that no one wants to believe. One teacher decides that he knows the limits of the possible and is wrong. One father comes not just to confirm his son's words, but to remind him, believing in yourself begins with family, and one story changes the school forever because the truth spoken out loud becomes louder than any doubt. Don't forget to subscribe and like so you don't miss new stories. And now, guys, it's time for the most interesting part, Mr. Hudson said cheerfully, clapping his hands. We continue our career week. Today, everyone will tell what their mom or dad does for a living. Just remember, no fibs. We want to hear real stories. The buzz in the classroom grew louder, with some students fidgeting and others raising their hands excitedly. The students began to stir in their chairs, as if this part of the lesson was more important than the math test. In the center of the room, in the third row by the window, sat Miles. He was quietly holding a folded piece of paper, on which his scribbles depicted what looked like a space station and a small man in a spacesuit. So, let's start with Justin. Justin, tell us, what does your mother do for a living? My mom's a bank manager, Justin said proudly, straightening up a little. She says she's responsible for some really important numbers. Great. Who's next? Lily. And my dad is a vet. He even treats parrots. And once, the girl raised her finger. He sewed up an owl's wing. Laughter, delight, applause. Miles clutched the paper tighter. Miles? The teacher peered at him over his glasses. Your turn. He rose slowly, as if he was afraid that his legs would not support him. He swallowed. My name is Miles Bailey. I'm 8. And my dad works for the Orbita Space Agency. There was silence in the classroom. Someone chuckled. Someone snorted quietly. He's an engineer, the boy added. He helps launch rockets. In orbit, you say? Mr. Hudson asked, squinting. It's a federal structure, right? Yes, sir. Are you sure you understood correctly? Maybe he just, works somewhere near orbit? No, sir. He shows me radar images, and he says his team is working on a satellite orientation system. Someone in the back whispered, He's lying. The class began to giggle. Miles froze. His face darkened like the sky before a storm. Miles, I'm sure you're very proud of your dad, Hudson began slowly. But here in class, we try not to sugarcoat things, okay? But I don't. It's okay, the teacher interrupted. Please sit down. Let's continue. Tommy? Miles sank slowly into his chair, as if collapsing. The paper with the drawing was crumpled in his fist. There was a buzzing in his ears. Everyone was giggling again. He didn't cry. He just looked out the window where the clouds were floating, white and free. After school, he was getting ready in a hurry. His scarf got tangled in his backpack. Lily came up to him. Hey, maybe you just misunderstood? What? Well, about Dad. He probably works in an office or in a space museum. No, he said stubbornly. He really does work in orbit. Okay. She left, and he remained standing by the wall, as if her words had thrown him even further from the center of this world. Miles, Mom, Leah, called from the school gates. How was your day? Fine. And the presentation? They told us everything. Then we played. He didn't look her in the eye. Did you show your drawing? No, I lost it. That evening at home, his father came into the room and sat down on the floor next to him. Miles sat with his face buried in his knees. Hey, fighter, I heard you had some performances today. Tell me. Dad? What? The teacher said that you don't work at Orbit, which I must have gotten wrong. Silence. And you got it mixed up? No, but they didn't believe me. Terrence sighed. He knew that one phrase from an adult could either break or inspire, and now was the moment when he could not remain silent. Miles. Look, I do work at Orbit. I'm a control systems engineer. I helped launch the Titan IV satellite. I couldn't say much before, but you need to know. Everything you said is true. Then, why don't they believe me? Because sometimes it is difficult for people to believe that the impossible is close, especially if it goes beyond their usual picture of the world. I wanted them to be proud of me, to know that my dad was more than just someone. They will find out. Tomorrow, I will go to school with you. To school? Yes, in uniform, with a pass, with an emblem, with that very sign that you love to draw. Miles's eyes widened. Is it true? Absolutely. Will you come straight to class? Right there. And I'll say, yes, I'm that dad, from the stars. And Miles, for the first time that day, smiled. Quietly, but widely, as if the light had been turned on inside him again. Are you sure you want to do this? Leia asked, putting a lunchbox of sliced apples into Miles's bag. I promised, Terrence said, adjusting the collar of his uniform. Today he needs to see that the truth is not a shadow. It's light. Just be prepared. They won't accept it right away. I'm not going for them. I'm going for him. Miles sat by the window and watched the frost accumulate on the glass. He had said almost nothing since the morning, only nodded when his mother brought in breakfast and buttoned up his jacket without a word. Are you ready? His father asked quietly, appearing in the doorway. Are you sure you're going to wear your uniform? Already put it on. They will watch. Let them watch. This is their chance to see the stars closer. They walked down the school hallway together. At the entrance to the building, the secretary raised her eyebrows. Good morning. Can I help you? Dr. Terrence Bailey. I'm speaking in 2A today. The teacher is aware. Sure. Straight down the hall, then turn left. Only... She glanced at the emblem on his shoulder. Are you really from orbit? Exactly. Wow. When they reached the classroom, Miles suddenly stopped. Dad. What, baby? What if he says it's not true again? Then we'll let the truth speak louder. Mr. Hudson was just handing out notebooks. And here's our unexpected guest, he said, looking at the figure in the dark blue uniform. You're, good morning. Dr. Terrence Bailey, I'm Miles's father, and an employee of the National Space Agency, Orbita. The class froze. Someone stopped chewing gum. Lily dropped her pencil. Sorry. The teacher was a little confused, straightening his tie. We didn't know you were coming, Miles invited. And I always keep my promises, especially to my son. He stood at the front of the class, his uniform emblazoned with the agency's silver emblem, a planet crossed by an orbit and 2 stars, a symbol of the future. Who among you loves space? He asked. Hands shot up. Even Justin, who had been laughing yesterday, stood up straight and nodded. Who knows how the satellite navigation system works? Who has heard of gyroscopes? Who can imagine what orientation in a vacuum means? Pause. Hands dropped. That's great. So now you'll find out. He took out a tablet and connected it to the projector. An image appeared on the screen, a drawing of the satellite, then a photo of the engineering team, and in the center, himself. This is us. The team that worked on the launch of the Vesta 9 satellite. We calculated the trajectory, programmed the modules, and 18 months later, it entered orbit. Here is a frame from the launch. A rocket lit up on the screen, a roaring white flame shooting upward. Is it real? Someone whispered. Absolutely, Terrence replied. And it's not fantasy. It's work. Every day. He turned to the class. Do you know who first told me that rockets can fly to the stars? My father. And now I'm telling my son about it. He looked at Miles, who sat there with his mouth open, his eyes shining as if the universe itself was reflected in them. And yesterday, Terrence continued, my son told you that his dad works with rockets. It was true. There just weren't any ties in it. Just faith. Mr. Hudson stepped forward. I, must apologize. Apology accepted. Children must believe. and adults must not destroy that faith. After the lesson, the children surrounded Terence. Did you really see the launch? What does space look like from your equipment? Can I get there? Me too? He answered everyone, patiently, with warmth, as if he heard his childhood in every question. As they left the classroom, Miles walked slightly ahead, proudly, straight, as if his height had grown by a whole cosmos. Dad. Yes? This was my best day. Do you know which one was mine? Which one? Today, because you started believing again. And for me, that's more important than all my companions put together. He ruffled his son's hair, and they walked further down the corridor, where there was no giggling or mockery now. Only looks, surprised, admiring, and slightly envious. And in each of them, recognition. The boy who was not heard yesterday, today became the loudest of all. Oh my, Lily whispered, catching up with Miles as he left the classroom. Does he really work at Orbit? Yeah, Miles said, smiling. I told you. He's so real. I thought people like that only happened in movies. But he does. And he's my dad. Rumors spread through the school faster than news on the internet. By lunchtime, second graders, third graders, and even seniors were peering into Class 2A, as if expecting to see something like a portal to another world. The boy who had been joked about yesterday was now a hero, but he himself was still Miles. Only his back had straightened, and his eyes had stopped hiding. Is it true that he has a pass with a chip? Justin asked, approaching him in the cafeteria. Yes, and it lights up when you hold it to the lock. Have you seen the missiles? Only in pictures, but he promised to take me downtown one day. Really? It's like a museum? No, it's like a base from futuristic movies, only without the lasers. Justin scratched his head. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I just didn't believe it. It's okay. Really, just remember next time, not everything that sounds like a dream is a fairy tale. After school, Miles met his dad at the gate. Are you back in shape? Yes. I was invited to stay for the rest of the week, to teach a couple of classes. Will you be teaching? Well, not exactly. But talking about space is almost the same thing. Do you want to help? Of course. In the classroom, Mr. Hudson was standing at the board again, but now his expression had changed. His gaze was softer, his movements less formal. Hello, Miles. Glad you came. And thanks for yesterday. My dad said the truth is like a launch. Sometimes it's noisy. Yeah, the teacher chuckled. Especially when it hits your pride. Aren't you angry? I am, but not at you. At myself. During the next lesson, Terence explained how telemetry worked, why a rocket didn't just fly up, but think first, and how many people it took to get one capsule out of Earth orbit. The kids didn't interrupt. Even the most restless ones sat with their mouths open. Is it true that you can't cry in zero gravity? Amelia asked from the front row. Tears don't flow down, he answered. They gather in your eyes like glass balls. What if you sneeze? Then a ballet of snotty molecules begins. Laughter swept through the classroom. But it was not the laughter of mockery. It was the laughter of delight. After class, CB, a quiet boy, approached Miles. Can your dad bring a photo of the moon? He said he would give me a real printout from the telescope. Can I have a look too? Sure, we'll bring it to the blackboard. That evening at home, Leah was heating up a vegetable stew, and Miles, sitting at the table, was sorting through the drawings that the children had given Terence after class. Did you see? That's me on the rocket. And that's you next to me, waving to me from Earth. Beautiful. And then Lily drew me in a helmet. She said that I looked like, well, I don't know, like a hero. And you are a hero, said Mom, putting a plate in front of him. I thought that heroes were those who save. You saved your truth, and that's the hardest thing. The father walked into the kitchen, taking off his jacket. How is our future astronaut? Inspired. Excellent. Then maybe we should start building a model rocket. Right now? Why not? I brought the basic kit. It's time to learn how everything works, not just in stories. They laid out the parts on the floor: cylinders, tubes, microcircuits. The room filled with the rustle of plastic and children's breathing. Dad, have you ever been afraid? All the time, especially when I was your age. And then you stopped? No. I just started moving forward even with it. Fear is not a stop sign. It's just a sign. Look around. I was afraid that you wouldn't come to school. I was afraid that you would stop believing. That's why I came. Do you think I could ever do that? Miles, you've already done more than some adults. You've protected the truth. The next step is flight. They assembled the rocket's nose cone. Miles carefully slid it into place, snapped the latch into place, and lifted the structure over his head. And now? Now we launch. Not into the sky. Yet. But into the dream. Definitely. And at that moment, there was no need for a real engine, no trajectory. Just words. Just eyes in which the stars shone again. Did you see that? Justin exclaimed, running up to Miles with a clipboard. They put you on the school website. There's a picture of your dad holding a model rocket. Yes, and the caption, Student 2A's father gave a lesson on stellar engineering. Sounds like the title of a movie. Miles smiled. It still felt like a dream, but it was still happening, and it was real. For the first time, he was being listened to. For the first time, no one was laughing. For the first time, his name sounded like something more than a mistake. During recess, students gathered around him. Do you have a helmet at home? Is it heavy? What's more difficult, building a rocket or controlling it? Miles answered honestly. Dad says the hardest thing is to make sure she doesn't make a mistake in a millimeter, because in space, a millimeter is like a kilometer. Wow. And also, that it's important to trust the team. Because even the smartest engineer can't do it alone. When everyone had left, he approached the teacher. Mr. Hudson? Yes, Miles? Thank you for not interrupting Dad yesterday. I should be the one thanking you. He reminded me why I became a teacher. Did you really think I was lying? I didn't. I just didn't believe it, and that's worse. Why? Because not believing it means not even trying to understand. Miles nodded. He wasn't angry. He'd learned something more important. To forgive, not because he had to, but because he could. At the end of the day, Dad came to pick him up again. So, how was your day? He asked, as Miles got into the car. I got put on the school's website. That's serious. I'll have to hire an agent. Justin would do. He speaks well. What about you? I am not afraid to speak anymore. That's great. The hardest thing is the first step. Have you ever taken your first step trembling? Every time a rocket is at the launch pad. But you know it will take off, right? You never know for sure. But you believe. And that's enough. In the evening, they were sitting with their mother at dinner again. Leah looked at her son, and there was something new in her gaze. Calm. As if an invisible weight had disappeared from the house. Miles, tomorrow is the last day of career week. I know. Do you want to perform again? Yes. I want to bring a photo. The one with Dad in front of the rocket. Great idea. Can I tell the story myself? Without Dad? Of course I can. I want them to understand. Dad is not just a form. He is a belief. And if you believe in it, it becomes a part of you. The next morning, he got up earlier than usual. He put the photo in a folder, carefully wrapped up the drawing, which he had reworked. Now the rocket was brighter, and he himself had the Orbita flag on his sleeve. The children were already waiting in the classroom. The teacher gave him the floor again. Miles wants to share a story with you, without Dad, just himself. He stood in front of the board. He was a little nervous, but he took a deep breath and began. When I said that my dad works at Orbita, they didn't believe me. I was very scared, because if they don't believe in your truth, it's like they don't believe in you. It was quiet in the classroom. But then Dad came, and everyone saw. But the main thing is not the uniform. The main thing is not the missiles. The main thing is that he came because he knew I told the truth. He picked up the photograph. It's him, and it's my voice that he heard. Now I want you to know that if you ever say something that others don't believe, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It means they're not ready yet, and you are. At the end of the speech, the entire class applauded, not out of politeness, but out of respect. "Miles," said Mr. Hudson, "you've just taught us the best lesson we've had all week." And at that moment he realized, now everything is real, not because of the photos, and not because of his father, but because he himself had become stronger, and this was his own rocket. "You were brilliant today," Terrence said as he and Miles walked across the schoolyard after class. "I was a little scared at first. And then? Then I realized I had a voice, and that it could be louder than I thought." The snow was beginning to melt. There was a hint of spring in the air, even though it was still mid-February. Small puddles reflected the sky, and the sun hid between thin clouds. Miles walked lightly, as if there was no longer a weight of mistrust or a shadow of shame on his shoulders. "You know that you are not just a student now," added the father. "You have become an example. But I just told you about you, and that was enough. Sometimes one honest word is louder than 1,000 books." In the evening, they sat down at the table as a family. Mom brought a warm apple pie. "What are we thanking for today?" She smiled, pouring tea. "For truth," said Miles, "and for the fact that she knows how to wait." "That's beautiful," Leah nodded. "Where did you learn to talk like that?" "From my dad. He talks like he's building rockets out of words, too." "Hey," Terrence chuckled, "I'm just an engineer." "No, you're an engineer of hope." They ate in silence, with a warmth that needed no words. Miles looked at his parents and felt himself grow. Not inches, but more, in self-confidence. The next day, without much fanfare, Mr. Hudson invited Terrence to a school meeting. Teachers, parents, and students gathered in the assembly hall. The presentation was called Dreams That Become Professions. "Today we have more than just an invited guest," the school principal began. "Today we have with us a person, thanks to whom we all remembered. Every child can be more than they seem. And every adult should be able to listen." When Terrence came on stage, Miles was sitting in the front row, holding the very same drawing, neatly straightened and framed. "When I was 8, Terrence began, I dreamed of becoming a pilot. But in my town, there wasn't a single engineer I could look like. So I became what I had once been looking for. And now," he continued, "I have a son who stood up one day and said, 'My dad works in the missile program.' And they didn't believe him. But he wasn't afraid, and his voice became the voice of truth." He looked at Miles, who nodded and smiled. "I didn't come to talk about formulas. I came to say, believe, in yourself, in your children, in what is possible. Because the truth doesn't need applause. It just is. And one day, if you're brave enough to say it, it will speak for you." The hall froze. Then there was applause, not formal, but live, real. Later, at the exit from school, Terrence was approached by Mr. Hudson. "Dr. Bailey." "Yes?" "I want to apologize again, not for doubting, but for not asking a single question." "It's okay to doubt," Terrence said, "but it's dangerous not to hear." Miles changed me. His courage, his voice. He learned to be loud, because the silence once betrayed him. He's a great boy, and you've become a different teacher. That night at home, Miles couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, whispering into his pillow, and then got up and went into the kitchen where his father was sitting with a mug of coffee. "Are you awake? Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever feel like you don't belong somewhere?" "Yes, often, especially in those halls where important decisions are being made." "What did you do?" "Remind yourself that even if you're the only one telling the truth, it's still the truth. Even if no one else believes it? Especially then, because it's like a star. You can't always see it, but it's there." "I think I want to be an engineer, or an astronaut, or a teacher." "The main thing is not who, but what kind of teacher." "What kind of teacher?" "Someone who listens. Someone who is not afraid. Someone who, one day, when someone says, 'You're lying,' will simply raise their head and say, 'I know who I am.' And that will be enough." Miles hugged his father. "You are my hero, and you are mine." "Really?" "Absolutely, because you got up, earlier than many adults." He returned to the room, lay down on the bed and closed his eyes. Outside the window, the stars were shining especially brightly, and one of them seemed to blink, like a sign, as if everything was just beginning.